Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Avodah Zarah Nundal. We begin on the fourth line off the top of the Amud. Tana, we have a brayso which tells us nevad. So when one worships an item, a statue, any type of material, it becomes forbidden, it becomes asur. It is considered Avodah Zarah material. It is asur bahana, even for an ordinary person. Now, what if it's a Baal Chai, an animal? In that case, it's not man-made. It doesn't become affected in terms of being asur for personal use. But that animal is unfit to serve as a korban for Hashem. It's called ne'evad, right? It becomes disqualified for korban. However, says the brayso, that's only if it's your own animal. You can't impact somebody else's animal. And even if he bows to the other animal, it will not become affected. It will still be kosher for korban use. Tana, we learn in the brayso. So the animal was nevad, was worshipped. Shaloi, if it belongs to him, his own personal animal, asur. Then it cannot be used for a korban. But v'shel chaveri mutar, if it's his friend's animal, then it's okay, because we learned this over and over again. Ein adam oiseir davar she'ein shaloi. You cannot adversely impact somebody else's item. But we have a brayso which seems to indicate otherwise, that you could even disqualify the other fellow's animal. V'ramini, here comes a brayso. Ezehu nevad. How do we define the nevad status? What is it? Kol she'ovdim oisei. Any animal which was worshipped in all types of settings, willingly, unwillingly, on purpose, by mistake, bein b'shoigig, ubein b'mezid, bein b'oines, ubein b'ratzon, whether it was done inadvertently, b'mezid, willingly, b'oines, it was out of his control, ubein b'ratzon, or he did it purposely, the animal becomes a nevad. Now, hi oines, hey chidami, how do we quantify the oines? What exactly happened? We'll assume he forced the other fellow to, right? He worshipped the other fellow's animal. He did it against the other owner as well. Lavki going to anas behemas chaver. He grabbed the other fellow's, animal. So basically, he worshipped. Right? He saw the other fellow walking with his animal, and he bowed down to it against the owner's, wishes. Apparently, you can adversely impact someone else's animal as well. Amar Rami Bar Chama, loi, incorrect. It wasn't anybody else's animal. It was his own. Was speaking that Goyim forced the owner by threat of death to bow to his own animal. Yeah, if it's his own, it becomes asur. Asks the Gemara, but if he was forced, although he should be willing to give up his life to avoid worshipping Avodah Zarah, true, but technically speaking, it wasn't something he initiated. It wasn't something that he did, willingly. In which case, why is the animal becoming a nevad? Maskav la Rabbi Zera oines. It was done by force. Rachmana patria. Torah exempts this type of case, as we find in the classic case of the Na'ara Homorasa, this woman who was forced into Aveda. The pasuk says, "L'chsiv v'lo na'ara le'sasa davar." She's not held accountable, so he's not either held accountable for doing this. Why is it considered an object of Avodah Zarah? Elam Rava says like this. True, he was forced, but he should be willing to give up his life for this. Yehareg ve'al ya'aveh, right? One is obligated to sacrifice himself for Kiddush Hashem. Failing to do so constitutes a full-fledged act of Avodah Zarah, in which case the animal is considered Avodah Zarah material and is asur for future korban use. All types of acts of worship were covered by the ban, where the pasuk says, "Loisa of them, don't worship Avodah Zarah." But then, when the Torah points out v'chai bohem, mitzvahs are meant to be lived with, meant to live through the mitzvahs, rather than become a cause of death. So, Yatzainus. The Torah now exempts an Einus case, a person who was forced into doing an Avera. But then the Torah comes back and says, well, hold it, not in all circumstances, not in all situations. Can you forfeit? Can you succumb to an Einus? It's not an excuse for all situations. Don't desecrate Hashem's name. And that covers even when he is under threat. So which way is it? Is it meant to resist or succumb? So you have to say, it depends on the setting, if it's in private or it's in public. If it's in private, doesn't involve Chilul Hashem. It's not a public, proclamation of a negation to Torah. So in that case, he can bow to the idol. If it's done publicly, he must be willing to sacrifice himself. And failing to do so constitutes Avodah Zarah in its full-fledged sense, to the extent that the animal becomes an item, an object of Avodah Zarah. And by the way, Tosfos points out that we actually paskin that when it comes to the three cardinal sins, right, Avodah Zarah amongst them, one is obligated to be Meiser Nefesh under all circumstances, even in private. But Rav is covering a certain Shita Rabbi Shmuel, who holds that it's only pertinent in public. In any case, Rav's point here is simply that, look, although he sort of has an excuse, he was forced into it. And in fact, the halacha is that even if a person is obligated to Meiser Nefesh, whether it's in public, certainly in public, and according to us, even in private, there's a mitzvah of, b'chal nafshecha, there's a mitzvah of Kiddush Hashem. Now, if one fails to do so, he's not going to be punished to the full extent, like a regular Oved Avodah Zarah. He should have stepped up to the plate, he should have sacrificed himself, sure, but if he didn't, he's not going to be held fully accountable as though he did a regular Avodah Zarah. But nevertheless, it is considered an act of idol worship with respect to affecting the item at hand, namely this animal. Amr le Rabban le Rabbas. Rabbanah sought to support Rabba's notion that even in a forced situation, the animal is considered Avodah Zarah. Tanya, we have a Brisa, the Messiah, which will support your point. These pedestals on which they place their idols. So b'shas Agzera. So they did it during the Shas Agzera. Rashi says a time of decree, with a decree that the Jews have to worship idols. It was an Einus, it's a classic Einus. It was farhesia, it was in public. Certainly, one has to be Meiser Nefesh. So what's the status of these items? Aval b'shagzera batel, even though Baruch Hashem, the decree was annulled, and we're no longer being, forced. Oisan bumisa'is bimusia'is loy batel. The status of those statues and those things remain intact, which means to say they're forbidden. They're Avodah Zarah materials, despite the fact they were only worshipped, by force, under threat of death. Apparently, that still has an effect on the items, and is considered Avodah Zarah. Amar Lus Rava responded, no, this isn't necessarily going to provide any proof to my notion. Why? Eimar Yisrael Murmahava. We can strongly suspect that amongst the people who bowed to this thing, there were some people forced, but there was also a Yisrael Mumar, Yisrael who was a renegade, and he did it willingly, in which case it certainly becomes us. Rav Ashi Amar, you don't have to say Eimar. It's merely a theory, perhaps. Elavadai. We can state with certainty that Yisrael Mumar Hava Upelach L'Barasan, there was Yisrael Mumar amongst them who worshipped it willingly. Why? Rashi says, because chances are, when things are going tough, when the Goyim have the upper hand, Efshar, that amongst all the people there shouldn't be somebody who was a Mumar who fell off the track and got, attracted to the opposing culture, in which case he did it willingly. And certainly it becomes us. Okay, so again, the starting point was Nevad only applies to one's own possession, not somebody else's. The Brisa, which says it applies even Ba'inas, was speaking that it's his own, but he was forced to do it. Chizki Omar, I'll give you another answer. Sure, he forced his friend. He went to the other guy's animal. As to your question, well, you can't impact somebody else's possession. The answer is, yeah, when you bow to it, you can. But if you actually do a ma'aseh, an act, with the other item, such as a fellow who was menasech wine, he poured wine in honor of the Avodah Zarah over the horns, right? On the horns of the animal. That's a ma'aseh, which can now adversely affect the actual animal itself. So again, an external act like a bow, which doesn't involve the animal itself, you can't adversely affect somebody else's possession, but an act which involves the animal itself, yes. Maskav l'Ravada bar Ava, I don't understand. Just because he poured some wine in honor of the idol, Hai Nevad, why is it called a Nevad? He's not worshiping the animal itself. Hai Bimus Ba'almu, he's just using the animal as a stand, as a pedestal, as a Visharye, the animal's still okay, still mutter. Elam Ravada bar Ava Kanshinisach Lo Yainu Kanea. See, such is the case. He poured wine over the animal, and by doing so, he worshipped the animal itself. David B'Mas. In which case, it becomes forbidden. As per the story, when Ula came, Amar, he quoted Rabbi Yechanan, even though we all know. It's a known fact. Simply bowing to somebody else's animal does not forbid the animal. But asar b'masa, asar, if it did a masa involving the animal itself, it makes it asar. Amrlu Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman told the Ibnei Yeshiva who related this halacha from Ula, go tell Ula. It's old news. Rav Huna already explained and presented l'shmaitach this very halacha in a different format, but the same concept where it was bebavel. The Amar Rav Huna told us. So somebody else's animal is lying there, is crouched in front of the idol, and now he, the non-owner, approaches the animal, decides to slaughter the animal in honor of the Avodah Zarah. As soon as he begins the shchit, even one siman, either the esophagus or you don't have to do a full shchita. That is really considered an amasa, which transformed the animal and made it asara. And Taisa says this type of severe change, this type of serious maisa, makes the animal a takrevet. It's like an offering type of Zarah, in which case it's asur even for a hedyet, for mundane use. So it's beyond nevad. It's more than just nevad. It makes it asur for hedyet as well. Rashi Taisa says it's called a ma'asa begufa, a ma'asa within the animal itself, not just pouring on the animal. That makes it asur as a nevad, and only asur for shamayim, for carbon, here it's a ma'asa begufa, and the actual animal itself becomes asur for everybody. So this corresponds to Ula's halacha and to the way we explained our halacha with the wine, because it's an act. It's not just a hashtachavo, an external. It involves the animal itself, in which case it's us. Minolan de Asra. So how do we know this is true? Where's the source? It's somebody else's animal. Who says your act, your maisa can make it Asra? Perhaps from the fact that the Kohanim, who were forced by the Malchi Yisrael, the sinful kings, who forced Kohanim to serve in the Avodah Zarah temples, and then they were no longer allowed back into the Beis HaMikdash, despite the Kehanim not belonging to the Malchi Yisrael. How could the Malchi Yisrael affect their status? Apparently, since they forced them to do a maaseh, that could impact even if it's not your possession. Such as these Kohanim didn't belong to the caretakers. Nevertheless, they were affected. Well, says the Gemara V'Dilma, perhaps you can differentiate. Shani Kohanim are very different than animals. The Bnei De'aninu. We had this the other day, right? They're intelligent beings. They have no business. So they have to take accountability, and they become asur. And Rashi says it's a knas. It's only a penalty applied by the Rabbanon. It's not a din minat Torah that they become asur. They should have known better. Ve'ela, rather, we're going to look for a different source. Me'avni mizbeach. When the Greeks defiled our temple, our altar, our mizbeach, the Chashmonaim, upon vanquishing and chasing them out, had to go demolish the mizbeach and bury the stones. Well, the mizbeach didn't belong to the Ivanim. How could their activity with the mizbeach impact the mizbeach? Apparently, when you do a maaseh, it has impact. Well, no, but then look at Rav Papa. Maybe the reason is totally different. It's because of Rav Papa. He had a pasuk that when they came in, V'chidelu, it no longer was considered kodesh, and now they could sort of take possession. It belongs to them, and certainly their activity makes it us. V'ela mikelim. What about the kelim? Oh, the Beis HaMikdash that Achaz violated use of Avodah Zarah. The Chsiv, it says they could no longer use those kelim, despite the fact they weren't his. How could he impact their status? The Chsiv is kol ha-kelim asher hizneach melech Achaz b'malchusay. All the kelim that Melech Achaz diverted b'malei when he used them for Avodah Zarah. Heichanu v'ikdashnu. We had to bury them, dispose of them. We had to hide them and replace them. V'amar, we learned Heichanu means sheganaznu. We buried them. V'ikdashnu means shegdashnu chem tachtem. We replaced them with others. And the obvious question is why? V'ayin adam oiser davar she'ein shaloi. These items didn't belong to King Achaz. How could his activity with them affect him? The answer is Ella. Apparently, Kivan the Avad Buhumas, Itzralu, once he used them, he did a masa that involved those items, they become Asar Hachanami here as well in our story. Kivan Sha'asa a masa Asar, once he did a masa with the animal, even though it's not his animal, it makes it Asar. Ki Asar Abdim Rav Yechanan, here comes another halacha involving something which typically does not get affected by worship, but if there's a serious masa done with it, it was altered, then it gets affected. What is that? Karka, right? The earth, property. Even though we learned, a person bows to the ground, it doesn't become asr, it's not man-made, it's not affected by his activity. But if he digs around the holes, shichin is a longer type of cistern or a cavity beneath the ground, asr, it makes it asr because he altered it. It's a serious masa that makes it asr. Right, so if he did it for Avodah Zarah, it becomes asr. Ki asr of Shmuel bar Yudah Rabbi Yechonah. It becomes another Allah from Rabbi Yechonah. So Afa B'Shamar, even though we just said Hamyashtach v'lebalechayim le'asoran, if one bows to any animal, even his own, although it becomes asr, puzzle for carbon, it's called a ne'avad, but it doesn't become an item, an object of Avodah Zarah. There is an exception. Ason chalifen l'avodas kachavim. If you used an animal as part of an exchange, as payment for Avodah Zarah. So let's say he had an idol and gave it to a guy in exchange for the guy's animal. So now he took the guy's animal in exchange as payment. The Isser of Avodah Zarah extends, it infects the exchange item. Asaran. Now how far does this go? Now if he takes this animal, exchange it for something else, does it just keep on going? Does the Isser keep on spreading? Or does it stop at that first item? Kiyasu Rabban, when Rabban came, Amar, he explained that it's really a machlekes. Pliguba. There's a machlekes in this regard between Rabbi Yishmael, Rabbi Yossi, between one Tana, the Rabban and the Rabban. Chanama, one opinion holds, Chalif and Asur, and only the first generation is Asur. But Chalif and Mutar, the next item, exchanged for the first exchange, is Mutar. The other opinion disagrees. Afilu Chalif Nami Asurin, the Isser just keeps on going perpetually. My time, what's the reason to say that it keeps on going? Omar Kor, the pasuk says, there's no end. Vayiso cherem kamayu. Cherem means it becomes forbidden. Kamayu, like the Avodah Zarah. And that applies to anything that was produced, procured, obtained by way of the Avodah Zarah. So even 10th generation, what you got in exchange for the exchange for the Avodah Zarah, that initial Avodah Zarah item affects everything along the chain. Kol shata mahaya mimenu, any item that you obtained through the Avodah Zarah, harayu kamayu, has the same status as the Avodah Zarah itself. Idach, what does the opposing shita say? No, Amakra, the pasuk says who. The last word of that very pasuk is who. Kicherem who. It's an exception. It's an exemption. Exclusion. Only that. Only the first exchange. Who, but not the second exchange. What does the other opinion do with the word who? What is it coming to exclude? Oh, it's coming to exclude other things which are forbidden, to teach us that those items do not affect their exchange. So fruit of the first 3 years, or things which were grown in a vineyard together with the vines, which become asr bahano. The actual original item itself, but not something which received an exchange. It doesn't extend over to the exchange. For instance, he takes the apple of Arla and sold it. That dollar that he got doesn't have the Isur Arla. So if he takes that dollar and he is Makadesh and Isha with it, Vikidesh, Bidmeyan, uses the money to Makadesh and Isha, Makadesh, she becomes Makadeshes. We don't consider it Isur Hana. Actually, Rashi says, Rabbanon, he shouldn't be having Hana, but his Makadesh and Isha works. This says, how could the Isha have Hana from it? Well, she didn't get it from, she didn't exchange it with the Arla, so it's not her problem. And the fact that he's getting the Isha in exchange for that money, isn't that considered Hana? It says, we're lenient because it's mitzvah puravu. Another reason he says, because the Isha is not considered an exchange for that dollar, it's just it's an act of acquisition. A Ma'aseh Kedushin is not technically buying the Isha, so it's not considered received in exchange for the dollar. In any case, Minat Torah, certainly that dollar bill is not considered Arla. Why? Because who says only Avodah Zarah has that property, extends to its exchange, but nothing else. Ve'idach. Now, the Shita that already used the word who, for other reasons, how does he know to exempt Arla and Kalei Kerem from this type of halacha? Ve'idach, Arla and Kalei Kerem, they don't need a miuta, an exclusion. Why? Because the Havilu, Avodas Kecham, Ushviyas. Because once we know that Avodah Zarah has this type of ability to extend to its exchange, and so does Shemitah fruit. If one exchanges Shemitah fruit, the exchanged item has similar properties to the original. You have to eat it before biur, which means to say before the produce is no longer available for the animals out on the farm. So basically, we find twice in the Torah this type of phenomenon, that the item extends to its exchange. And that's called Shnei Ksuvim Habayim Ke'echad. When there are two psukim indicating the same halacha, why did the Torah have to repeat it if in fact it applies all over? No, Torah is telling you it's limited to these two. Whenever we have a repetition regarding one halacha, that tells us don't expand it to others. Hence, Arla and Kalei Kerem are automatically excluded. And the Gemara explains, what do we find? These phenomenon, that extends to its exchange, Hadamar, as we have just discussed. Where do we find it by Shemitah fruit? Shviyas, the pasuk says, Ki yeveli, Kodesh ti'alachem, the pasuk is equating the Shemitah, the Yevel fruit, to Kodesh, to Hegdesh, right? Ma Kodesh teves is damav. V'asr, just like an item belonging to the Beis HaMikdash, which is Kodesh. The Kedusha can get transferred to the money, right? You can redeem Kodesh to, and transfers Kedusha to money. V'asr, and the money becomes asur. Av Shviyas, likewise, in similar fashion, by Shemitah fruit, Teifeses es domeh v'asura, it extends over to the money received in exchange for that fruit. So again, once we have a double phenomenon, we have two precedents, Shviyas and Avodah Zarah, that tells us to limit it to those two. Asks the Gemara, hold it, if you compare it to Shemitah, to Kodesh, compare it all the way. Ima Kodesh, Teifeses damav v'yoytze l'chulin. Let's compare it to Kodesh completely. So you have a a kodesh item, you place money aside the item, and you declare that the kedusha should get transferred to the money. It happens, but guess what? The original hegdish item is now freed of it loses its kedusha. It's considered mundane. Av Shvi is perhaps the same procedure should apply to Shemitah. Tefeses utamea, sure. It affects the money received in exchange. V'asura, and that should now sort of free the original fruit from its kedusha. Right? Either the original or the copy. You can't have both. Says the Gemara, no. Although by hegdish it gets transferred completely, and the original item loses its kedusha, but not by Shemitah. By Shemitah, both hold on, both retain to their kedusha. Tamalim, the pasuk says tihiyah, right? Kiyoveli kodesh tihiyah lachem. Tihiyah means baviyasa tehei. It remains its original state. Okay, it says. Let's play it out. How does the Shemitah exchange system work? Lokach beperos shvius basar. He took his shvius apple, walked into a butcher shop, purchased a piece of meat in exchange for the apple. So now the meat obtains kedusha shvius, but so does the apple. He's still kodesh. Eilu ve'eilu, both items, mizbarim b'shvius. All the halachas of Shemitah and beer apply to them. Let's take it a step further. He walked into the fish store. Lokach b'basar dagim. He took his meat and exchanged it for fish. So now the fish become kaddish. Yotza basar nichnasu dagim. So instead of the basar being holy, the fish become holy. Meaning only the original and the last item on the chain, not all the middle items. They lose their status. B'dagim yain, exchange the fish for wine, gets transferred to the wine. Yotza dagim nichnas yain. The fish loses its status and the wine gains it. B'yain shem, exchange the wine for oil. Yotza yain nichnas shem. Okay, so the bottom line is achron, the very last item on the list, on the chain. Nitvas b'shvius absorbs kedusha shvius uperi atzmi asur, and this is in addition to that original apple, which is also asur as well. Okay, but in any case, it does expand. It does extend to its exchange, and we find it by Shemitah. We find it by Avodah Zarah. Hence, we don't need a new pasuk to exclude, Erla and Keren and other forms of Isur Hanoah from this process, because we have two ksuv and a boin ke'echad, which automatically excludes the others. Now, the other opinion, who did require a pasuk to exclude Erla and Keren from this type of process, it was the word who, right? Why was that needed? Because he holds. He doesn't agree with this formula. Even if you have two psukim teaching us the same exact concept, malamdin, you can still expand it and extend it, and therefore hu. That's why we need the word hu lemutinu to exclude Arla and Kerem from this process. Okay, so in summation, a person's activity can only impact his own belongings, his own possession, like his own animal. But if you bow to somebody else's animal, nothing will happen. Unless he does a maaseh with that item, such as pouring the wine, certainly if he does the shchita. How do we know that's true? From the story of Achaz with the kalim, where they had to, bury the kalim. They couldn't even take it for personal. He couldn't use it, let alone, for the mizbeach, for the b'samim. He couldn't take it home with them. Rashi says afla hedyet. Why? It was considered Avodah Zarah material, since it was used with a mice for Avodah Zarah. Likewise, we say mishtach karka doesn't make it asr unless he alters the actual ground for Avodah Zarah. That makes it asr. And then we learned that anything received in exchange for Avodah Zarah becomes asr as well. According to some, the isra keeps on going. Even chalif and asr. We find this type of concept by Avodah Zarah, by Hegdish, that the item in exchange becomes asur. Not so by other forms of Isurei Hana. Says the Mishnah, Shalus Askenim Beremi. So the Gentile wise men asked our Zakenim, the Chachmei Yisrael, the following question. And it was in Rome, Beremi. Look, we see Hashem dislikes Avodah Zarah, right? Why doesn't he just destroy Avodah Zarah from the world? Im ein ritzonei, ba'avodas kechav. Hashem is not interested in Avodah Zarah. Lama eina mevatla. Why doesn't he just destroy the whole idea, the whole concept? Amar Lan, so the Chachmei Yisrael responded, Hilu l'davar she'ein tzorech le'olam bai. Hayu oivden. Yeah, if they would be worshipping things which are not critical for our existence. Hayu mevatla. So yeah, Hashem would destroy those items. The problem is, they're worshipping very critical elements required to run our world. Sun, the moon, the stars, right? They worship the sun, the moon, all types of stars. So you want Hashem to destroy his world because of these silly people? Amrlan, so the Goyim responded, Imkain. Okay, but then so why doesn't he destroy items which are not really critical for the proper functioning of this world, the sticks and the stones? Let him destroy the statues and the things which are critical, sun and moon, he'll let be. Chacham responded, that wouldn't work. That would send the wrong message. That would reinforce the position, the faulty, mistaken view of those who worship the sun and the moon. They'll say, oh, you see, everything else was destroyed except for our idol. This would actually strengthen the worshippers of these bodies. They'll say, take a look. We have proof. Shein Elohus, that our gods are the gods. Sharein Batlu, because they were not destroyed. So Hashem just leaves everything as is, lets the world run on routine, and got to figure out how to do the right thing. Tanur Rabbanan, we have a brayso which has similar discussion, a similar conversation that took place between Shalu Philosophin, the philosophers, the Goyish philosophers, approached the Jewish elders as Haskenim in Rome, Beremi. The same question: Im Elekechem ein ritzonai ba'avodas kechav. Hashem doesn't want Avodah Zarah. Mipnei ma einay mevatel. So why doesn't he just obliterate it? Amar lahem, they responded, similar to the Mishnah, Ilu l'davar she'ein ha'olam tzarech lo hayu oivdin. If they would be worshiping things which are not really critical for our existence, Harayu mevatli would destroy it. But the problem is, Harayin oivdin lachama. They're worshipping the sun, the lilvana, the kechav, mazolis. What should he do? Ya'abid ha'olam ne'ashaytim, should destroy the world because of you silly people. Ella, rather, Hashem lets the world run its course, and you got to figure yourself out. The world runs its course, and the silly ones, foolish ones, who deviate, who misconstrue, they'll be held accountable. Davar acher becomes another example of this type of concept. Imagine a person steals, a sack of wheat, a saw of wheat. Valach v'zara b'karka. And he goes and he plants the wheat. It shouldn't really grow. It shouldn't grow. Dinu shlei titzmach. In reality, Hashem should not allow it to grow. It was stolen goods. No, does it grow? Yeah. Why? Hashem lets the world run its course, run its routine. And the robber who stole, he'll be held accountable. Hashem doesn't just make miracles, every day. We already have our miracles. We have Matan Torah, we have, right? Hashem stated the facts clearly for all to see. This is right, this is wrong, and now you pick your choice. It's up to you. A third example is, another example of this point is, a person interacts with another one's wife. Truthfully, she should not become pregnated. Hashem doesn't stop things. He lets nature run its course. This is in line with Rish Lakish. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem says, Lo yidayan l'rishayim she'osin sela shali pumbi. When Rishayim engage in this type of inappropriate behavior, not only do they take my sela, my form, selam alakim, and they make it pumbi. Rashi says they make it hefker. They involve me against my will, so to speak. They force me. They force my hand to contribute to the process. Rashi says a sela is like a stamp, a quince, which is used to make coins. So that's the concept of impregnation, the zera, the tzelem lakim. And they're involving Hashem in the process, who's now sort of forced to create this child. Shal philusfus echad. So this wise fellow asked, Es Rama Gamliel, Kosa b'teraschem. It says in your Torah, Hashem is a consuming fire. Kel kana. Hashem punishes all the worshippers. Why? So why does Hashem punish the idol worshippers, the people who worship, not the idol themselves? The idol itself remains, survives. Vein miskani bo. Amar loy. So Rama Gamliel responded with a parable, with a mashal. Em shelcha mashal. I'll tell you, what's it comparable to? Let me tell you a story. We have a human king. He had a son. The son had very little respect for his father. The son had a dog that he was, raising. And he called the dog Peter, which was his father's name. And whenever the son would swear, he would say, the life of my Peter, my dog, which was a very disparaging reference to his father, right? So when the king hears about this insulting, his son's insulting, disrespectful behavior, who's he going to get mad at? The son or the dog? Ala ben hukayis? At the son? Or he's getting mad at the dog? Of course not. Certainly gets mad at the son. You should have known better. The dog? I don't expect anything from a dog. Likewise, over here, Hashem expresses his anger at the human beings, at people who chose to serve idols. The idol itself, it's like a dog. What do you expect from a dog? The guy was not very pleased by this reference. He referenced the Avodah Zarah as a dog. You call my idol a dog? It has power. It has value. Amar Loiser, Gamliel says, how do you know? Amar Isa. Tell me how you know it has value. Amar Loiser says, I'll tell you how. One time there was a big fire in our town. And the whole city burnt down except for the church. So you see? Amar Loiser, Rama Gamliel responded with another mashal to downplay this fellow's excitement. Let me give you another mashal. What's it compared to? We have a regular king, Shasarchal of Medina. So, earthly king, who was faced with a rebellious city. Okay, so he's going to wage war. So he's going to teach him a lesson. Who's he going to battle against? Is he going to go to the cemetery of that town? Or going to go find the soldiers? When he goes to wage war with that city, is he going to go and teach the living people a lesson? Or is he going to fight with the dead of the town? Certainly with the people, the live people. That explains why the fire didn't bother consuming the Avodah Zarah. It's a dead entity. It poses no threat. It has no meaning, no value. So that's why it was spared. So the guy responds, you're calling my Avodah Zarah a dog? A dead entity? Imkain yivdar min ha'olam. Back to the original question. So why doesn't Hashem just destroy it if it's worthless? Amar lo, he responded in kind, if the guy would choose to worship items which are not really, important, are not critical, certainly he would, do away with them. But problem is, they worship the sun, the moon. Springs, water springs, ravines. What should Hashem do? Destroy his world because of these foolish people? As we find in the pasuk, which expresses the sentiment: should I destroy everything out there just because they decided to worship it? Asoif. Will I go and obliterate everything? Koil malpnei adam, Hashem says Hashem. Aseif adam ubehema. All people, animals, asif, if Hashemayim, birds, ge'ayam, fish, just because people stumble by these things. Just because the Rishayim choose to stumble with these items and serve them and consider them idols. You want me to destroy them? They worship even people. Go and remove all people and destroy people? So basically, Hashem says, I let the world run its course. You got to make your own wise decisions. Okay, that's pretty much the essence of this back and forth. They were asking, why does Hashem leave it? And that's your answer. All the best to you, and Hatzlacha Rabbah.